Of WFAA, Dallas's first television station. Tonight we celebrate the past and look forward to an exciting future. Thank you so much for allowing us into your home and for watching Channel 8. Now it's my pleasure to welcome you as WFAA presents 50 Years of the Spirit of Texas.
Make this house destined for the education and entertainment of the multitudinous people in this metropolitan area.
We were learning that there was such a thing as local television that really meant something in the community.
We would see your power and glory through science, literature, and drama.
Just a really good group of I told you I'd get nostalgic.
All followers of thy example. Fill those who shall speak from this station.
Man, I gave my life to that show.
Wisdom and fear of you. Amen.
With prayer and purpose, ground was broken at the corner of Young and Record Streets in downtown Dallas for the current home of WFAA TV. But it was 10 years earlier, on September 17th, 1949, with Vice President Alvin Barkley cutting the ribbon, that television came to Dallas as Channel 8 signed on the air. The call letters were KBTV. Dallas oil man Tom Potter owned it. In fact, he was the only individual in the world who owned a television station. Potter soon discovered that this thing called television was risky business. He was losing about $1,000 a day. He wanted out, and Bilo wanted in. It already owned the Dallas Morning News and 2 radio stations. This was a chance to expand.
The decision was there. If we don't get this station now, we may never get in the television. And so they took the chance.
And on March 17, 1950, Bilo bought Channel 8, and 2 months later changed the call letters to WFAA.
We had ambitions to bring our journalistic skills to bear, but it was probably 10 to 12, even 15 years before a lot of that began to play out, that we could see the shape of television as it evolved, and then later to understand the role that WFAA could play in Dallas and Texas and throughout the United States.
WFAA TV presents 50 Years of the Spirit of Texas.
I'm John McKay. It didn't take long for television to become a fixture in most households. As viewers learned, television could take them places they'd never been. It could also inform them of what was going on in their own backyards. In many ways, it is the news product that defines most local television stations. It's a yardstick by which we are measured each and every day. We are proud of our track record at WFAA, but what you see in tonight's News 8 update is considerably different than what we did on Channel 8 50 years ago.
In the 1950s, the Channel 8 news set looked like this: the Hams Beer Final Edition with Dick Wheeler, Jerry Haynes, and Warren Culbertson. Others that followed included news anchors Bob Gooding and Murphy Martin. But the philosophy of coverage in some of those early days was, well, different.
We shot rags. Yes, we did good rags. We're good on violence. Killing, city council, Kiwanis club luncheons, and throw in a ribbon cutting, and that was our day.
Didn't know any better.
No, we were writing the book. We were putting a note in the bottle that we were sending out on the sea of journalism history.
Disaster Dallas.
That history included a massive tornado that hit Oak Cliff in 1957. The future mayor of Dallas was on the scene for Channel 8.
I walked in the front door, and Forrest Moore, who was the assignments editor and has passed on now, Forrest said, Wes, didn't we understand that you had photography experience in the Army? And I said, yes. And he says, here's a camera, go out and shoot.
In 1961, Wes Wise's camera recorded some of Hurricane Carla's 175-mile-an-hour winds. 250,000 were evacuated from Corpus Christi to Port Arthur as 34 were killed.
I came across a hill, and I saw a big WFAA TV tape unit out, and I thought, what in the world are they doing here? I'm covering this story. What are they doing here? And they were doing a commercial for Allstate Insurance.
Thank you very much, Ben. There isn't anything I can add to that except, and I'm sure the Hargis family will agree, you're in good hands with Allstate.
I hollered and said, hey, Mr. President. And he turned and looked.
He turned to be going back, and we said, man, one
war.
And like any other weekday in 1963, Channel 8 was broadcasting the Julie Bennell Show during the noon hour.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You'll excuse the fact that I'm out of breath, but about 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing, from all indications at this point, has happened in the city of Dallas. Let me quote to you this. And you'll excuse me if I am out of breath. A bulletin, this is from the United Press, from Dallas. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding an open automobile when the shots were fired. The president, his limp body carried in the arms of his wife, Jacqueline, has rushed to Parkland Hospital. And if you'll excuse me if I give some directions and we talk about what we're going to do here for the next few minutes, but Bobby, let's tape this, if you please, particularly the interview with the eyewitness people. It is being taped good.
One of the original people that came in was Zapruder. He came running in the front door with his camera and his film, and he wanted us to develop it and get it on the air.
A gentleman just walked in our studio that I am meeting for the first time as well as you. This is WFAA TV in Dallas, Texas. May I have your name, please, sir?
My name is Abraham Zapruder.
You have the film in your camera. We'll try
Yes, I brought it on the studio now.
We'll try to get that processed and have it as soon as possible.
We had no capability of developing it. We had 16-millimeter black and white film processor. This was on miniature, I guess it was 8-millimeter film. So there was no chance that we were going to do it. In fact, we were trying to call around and find out if anybody could develop it.
This is Bert Shipp. Bert, we have brought the people pretty much up to date. Would you tell them exactly what you know as of this point?
Tom Allier was coming back from Fort Worth, and he was listening to the police radio and heard something that was disturbing about the school depository. And he pulled his news unit right up in the middle of one-way commerce, pulled emergency brakes, jumped out, ran over to the school book depository, went up in the building, got locked in there, and called me and says, I've got a lot of film of what happened over here. He says, I think this is going to be a big story. And I said, yeah, it sure is. I don't know how long you've been locked in there, but so he was throwing the film out the back window. 6 stories. We were catching it. We had film on the air within 30 minutes of the shooting.
Our remote cruiser is on its way to Parkland Hospital, and we'll be feeding there as soon as possible.
May I speak with you, please? I'm Ed Hogan of WFAA TV. If you turn around this, what is your name, please?
I stayed out there and interviewed people about how they felt knowing what had transpired. And it was very, of course, we were all just in shock. And it was something I'll never forget.
For the next 4 days, Channel 8 was feeding the story to the entire country.
Bob Walker, WFAA TV, Dallas, Texas. Interrupting, there's been a shooting at Dallas Police Station as Oswald was being transferred.
All of us were in the act. People who were in sales had microphones in their hand trying to get interviews. People that were in production were in the engineering department trying to help coordinate the technology. It was an overwhelming experience that lasted weeks. But I think it probably was an important turning point in the evolution of WFAA as a news gathering organization.
From Dallas, Texas, now back to ABC News in New York.
I think it would not be inappropriate at this time to say that all of us at ABC News in New York are intensely proud of the job that has been done by our staff at WFAA TV today in covering this story.
By the late 1960s, America was heavily involved in the Vietnam War. Channel 8 sent newsman Bob Gooding to interview area soldiers.
Oh, Bob, this is an Arty battery. We're in direction.
WFAA sent Murphy Martin with the wives of area prisoners of war to Paris, Stockholm, and Rome to get answers about their husbands.
What is the main reason they cannot even know if their husbands are dead or alive?
But there was that personal pride, and that Channel 8 really ignited much of the world interest, because had not we gone over there and these wives had been seen, started the parade of other wives going over, and pressure being brought against the North Vietnamese, the treatment we later found vastly improved for the men being held, and all of it was a byproduct of what Channel 8 actually originated with that documentary, which we call Red Tea and Promises.
Channel 8 News on the move with Don Harris, Bob Gooding, Jack Van Roy, Vern Lundquist.
In the 1970s, television in general was on the move, hitting a growth spurt, and the competition was tough. So in 1973, with Channel 8 in last place, Marty Haig became news director.
I came here in August, and in the November book, lo and behold, we were #1. And I thought, geez, this is easy. Well, of course, that was an anomaly. And in January, we were back to 3rd or 4th, and reality set in again. We tried everything. I mean, at one point, Ward and I talked about having Vern Lundquist do news in the second half hour of the hour newscast.
I remember it vividly. He and I had that. That's interesting that Marty brought that up. Marty just shocked me when he came to me and said we want to consider doing this. And I found it kind of appealing. And it never came to fruition.
1974, after I'd been here a few months, the Oklahoma City Mafia came in, and at that time, Tracy and Doug Fox and Byron Harris, I brought them down to interview them, and they ended up interviewing me, challenging me on my standards. But I think that was obviously one of the best hires we've ever made, because those are 3 extraordinary journalists.
This is the News 8 Update with Tracy Rowlett, Iola Johnson, Troy Duncan with weather, and Vern Lundquist.
Channel 8 rose to prominence again, and by the 1980s would become the market leader.
It was kind of cryptic, but the person listening knew that heavy meant jumbo jet and down meant down. And Cliff Williams and I were among the few people still standing in the newsroom, and so I believe it was Marty who said, "You chopper now."
Gary, what can you tell us?
Okay, what we can see from right here, right now, is not very much.
1985, I don't know if any TV station has ever decided to cover a big story, just blow out all the local programming, all the network programming, and just go with the story.
We were the first on the scene as far as any reporters go. We had a water tower.
We could see just the tail section sticking up. We did not see anybody. We have seen just a steady stream of ambulances. And
as the night progressed, you could have Dennis Johnson, great medical reporter, live from Parkland Hospital, where he knew everybody and had all the sources and could start giving out the really best information.
Out of DFW Airport this evening, a total of 17 victims were brought to Parkland.
I remember what my colleagues did really better than I remember what I did. I'll always remember Dave Cassidy.
Can you tell us what you saw, where you were when all this happened?
I was headed west on 114, and the rain was so hard you couldn't see 30 foot in front of you. And all of a sudden, it seemed like just caught a tire, a glimpse of a tire, and a big jolt just bounced my car.
All the stories that we did, that one probably got more national recognition because the networks, CNN and ABC, took a great body of what we had done, and CNN just took our signal. And in the weeks succeeding, it may be the next issue after that, there was an article in Variety magazine, and the headline said something to the effect, "Professionals agree, WFAA the best." And you hate to say that in the context of a tragedy. You have to be careful because, after all, more than 100 people died. But it was the notion that, as a news director, I was proud as a mother hen because I can sit back, in a sense, and see these people perform. And it was just remarkable.
It's strange in this business, so much of what people remember about you is linked to tragedy and pictures of suffering and bad things happening, and I guess that's inevitable when that's the business you're in. But I think we also ought to think about the good things, you know, the Super Bowl victories and the incredible achievement these cities in this area have undergone, and we've recorded that too.
58 hours on the button, according to the clock we're looking at here. There she is.
U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison wins re-election, and George W. Bush heads to the governor's mansion.
Channel 8 was a place that did news with a purpose. There was a real rhyme and a real reason. I think they set standards for journalism and local television that are rarely met.
A silver baton goes to WFAA TV Dallas.
WFAA's excellence has been recognized by numerous awards, including 2 George Foster Peabody Awards and 6 DuPont Columbia Awards, broadcast journalism's equivalent of the Pulitzer Prize.
At the local station level, a project of this magnitude quickly becomes an entire station effort, and it involves departments way beyond the news department.
By focusing on journalism, by having a superior news product and extending it into a variety of relationships with viewers, we create durable, truly important relationships with individual viewers, which are very hard for someone else to take away from us so long as we continue to do what we do best, and that is journalism.
Clearly, the history of the news department at Channel 8 is rich and full of some remarkable stories. Tonight, as we look back, we are reminded once again of the awesome responsibility we have in gathering the news. And we also look forward to covering the stories that will define us in the decades to come.
I'm Scott Sams. Join me for some of the special programs from WFAA's first 50 years. Next, shows like Mr. Peppermint and Let Me Speak to the Manager.
Unfortunately, we got the flack.
Happy 50th anniversary, Channel 8. Here's to 50 more in the spirit of Texas.
Early on, Channel 8 was affiliated with the DuPont television network and lost money, broadcasting only 4 hours a day. There were no how-to manuals in those early days of television. The actors, writers, and technicians were truly pioneers. For those of you that have grown up in Dallas, we hope you'll enjoy getting reacquainted with some old friends. And for those of you that have moved here, we hope you too will enjoy looking back at some very special shows in WFAA's history.
And that means that it's time
Bob
for
Stanford was Channel 8's first personality.
The Frito Kid.
With some scenes filmed around town, Dallas got to see itself on television for the first time.
The corn chip that all America likes best into his mouth. And now with new energy and with new strength, he managed to muster up enough energy to push back the truck.
WFAA was a real local television station in the very, very early days of television. The programs that WFAA put on the air were all live.
In the 1950s, there was also a children's show featuring a duck called The Webster Webfoot Show.
This is Uncle Jimmy Weldon and...
Webster Webfoot, I love everyone out here. Bye, y'all. Bye-bye.
The magic of television in those days was the magic of Mark Wilson. His show lasted 15 minutes each day and was sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
And always remember the real magic words on WFAA TV.
And Julie Bennell in her kitchen, she was such a great ad-libber and so popular with the sponsors because for every 1-minute commercial, she'd ad-lib about 3. I got my recipe for a dessert, bananas Foster, to serve to my then girlfriend, now wife. So if it wouldn't have been for Julie's recipe of bananas Foster, I might never have walked down the aisle.
In 1961, the boss even got into the act. Station manager Mike Shapiro became a regular part of the weekend with Let Me Speak to the Manager.
Now, the host of Let Me Speak to the Manager, Vice President and General Manager of WFAA Radio and Television, Mike Shapiro.
The first time Mike went on the air, I was a cameraman, and I ran camera for him. And the reason that he did the show was to explain to the community why he had canceled an episode of Bus Stop. And it was because of one word that was in Bus Stop that Mike felt didn't belong on television. Long since, this has not become a problem word. The word was virgin. And he took the show off the air because they used the word virgin. And after his show, a lot of letters came in and said, we'd like to hear more about television. We'd like you to tell us more. We've got more questions. And it literally started an 18-year, once-a-week service.
Murphy Martin did a commentary last week about having more conversation at home, and television interferes with conversation between parents and children, and he recommended that you turn off the television set. Unfortunately, we got the flack. 7 people called, said most of them thought or chose to think that Murphy was asking them to turn the television off and talk instead of listening to McGovern. 13 callers for the commentary. One man said Murphy had the right idea. They turned the television off for 35 minutes. It helped two ways. They missed McGovern, and they had a good conversation with their kids.
At that time, we were also using that phrase at 10 o'clock, it's 10 p.m., do you know where your children are? And it was a play off that when I was saying that perhaps we could do a lot better as parents if we would, from time to time, just turn the TV off totally for a half hour or a period of time and visit with our children.
Let Me Speak to the Manager wasn't just a show where Mike Shapiro answered viewer mail. He would occasionally share his set with a TV star.
It seems as how our guest today cannot stand the slightest breeze.
Yes,
so
I
we
can.
turned our air conditioner on.
I can stand the breeze, or I wouldn't be on this program listening to your wind.
There we go, there we go.
The Dodge Company just bought time on my show, and I told them in no uncertain terms, I will not drive a Dodge. I will tell the people that I drive a Lincoln Continental because I like the Lincoln Continental. But if I couldn't afford a Lincoln Continental, I might like the Dodge. I don't know.
Dodge Chrysler people called up and they wanted copies of that tape. They wanted to send it to the headquarters. They loved it. I mean, they weren't upset about it. They thought it was great.
Jerry Haynes had been a well-known Channel 8 mainstay in the 50s, doing sports, hosting Guest Book, Haynes Almanac, and Dallas Bandstand. But in the 60s, he found another generation.
We were sincere about it, we being Vern and I, and we never talked down to kids. We did it for our kids, and in doing it for that, we were doing it for other kids. Didn't try to be funny, just made it educational, and did it from the heart, and that's what you got to do. Mr. Wiggly, please wake up. We would like to see you. Muffin, I want to thank you for prolonging my career for 20 years.
Well, I've carried you for a while.
It was very successful because we really cared. I knew if you did a bad kid show, that was it. You were on the way out. Because I'd done everything else. Been there 9 years. And it worked. Man, I gave my life to that show. I raised our kids. My wife raised our kids.
Hello, I'm Carla Haynes. And I'm Gibby. And we'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas from the Haynes family. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Mr. Peppermint, I get noticed everywhere, you know. But it's fun. It's fun. Makes me comb my hair a little straighter when I go out in the morning.
As with Jerry Haynes, Ed Hogan appeared on many shows and in commercials, but he's probably best known for dialing for dollars.
I would ask them what is the count and the amount. I gave it at the beginning of the movie, and if they could repeat it, they got the jackpot.
But one of those numbers he called had a jackpot all their own.
Hi, this is Ed Hogan on Dialing for Dollars. Can you give me the count and the amount this afternoon? Who gave you this number? I'm on the air. I got a camera on me. We got them out of the phone book, sir. You don't get them out of the phone book. This is an unlisted number. Oh? Now, this is back years ago. I said, well, yes, sir. And, would you like to? He said, don't you ever call this number again. I said, thank you very much. And in the background, I could hear, and in the 5th race at Hialeah, enough said.
It's the award-winning Group and Chapman.
You see what we do. We take, as we said, the faces of the group, match them with the sounds of the popular music of the day. What's interesting about that show was that it was in prime time at 9:30 on a Saturday night. Now, how did you get that time slot? ABC Television did not program the entire primetime schedule on Saturday nights. They programmed up until 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern, and they gave it back to the local affiliates to fill up the half hour. Now, imagine a network not taking all the time they could get. So they gave us that half hour, and we lip synced to songs. Isn't that primitive?
Welcome to the group in Harrigan, to you in person right here.
When the show began, it was known as the Group in Harrigan because the host was known on the radio as Irving Harrigan.
KLIF said, you can go, but you can't take the name Irving Harrigan. Oh, whoa, hold everything. That's who I am now. And they said, you can't take the name. So then we had a big session down here one day, and we finally said, I got to use my real name so no one can ever take it again. And so the real name is Ralph Chapman, but that doesn't roll off the tongue real well. So right out here on Wood Street in a car with some of the execs of Channel 8, we went through all the names that begin with R so I could keep the monograms on my shirt. And we came up with Ron.
WFAA built a remote studio in a newly completed shopping center called North Park, and in 1965 introduced a dance show for teens.
On Channel 8, it's something else. Ah!
4 girls on the pedestals over my shoulder were the stars, and I knew that I was simply a prop that moved among them. They were so hot at the time that all I did was ride along. It was like a toboggan, you know, and all I did was hang on and go.
If you don't like, fake it, because it's dear to me. Okay?
Throughout the late 60s and early 70s, Channel 8 continued to pioneer programming with shows like News 8, etc.
Yes, well, listen, we had some fun,
Oh,
didn't we?
certainly we did.
North Texas woke up with Don Harris, Susie Humphreys, and Gene Thomas, never knowing what to expect.
The only link that you have not griped about.
You set me up. Oh, you dirty dogs.
The mid-70s brought us Bowling for Dollars and PM Magazine.
Well, in just about every facet of life, there is the best.
I learned to do anything for the story. It was such a high to be able to do just whatever it took. We needed to backpack on burros and go down the Grand Canyon. We did. If we needed to strap on microphones and parachute out of a plane to give that experience, that's what we did. My mother used to always worry about me because I'd call her up, Mom, we're hot air ballooning this weekend. Mom, we're heli-skiing in the Bugaboos. You know, Mom, we're off to Japan. And she would just marvel at the things that we were being exposed to. It was a magical time in television that was just very special.
Come on in, 6:30 on 8.
Along the way, there were some bumps in the road.
Thank you for coming, and welcome to 6:30.
But Channel 8's commitment to local programming is long-standing. Shows like Michael Brown's People, Que Pasa, News 8 Index, 8 Country Reporter, Metro, and La Vida.
It's Good Morning, Texas.
And in 1994, Good Morning Texas debuted, and mornings haven't been quite the same since.
Come on,
You like that back roll, man? Thank God I was a cheerleader. My God.
Good Morning Texas debuted in September of '94. I will never forget that. I have, though, tried to forget about that show called 6:30 on 8. They dug that one out of the library without me looking. We are all thankful at WFAA that the creative colony that has fostered the development of so many unique programs remains.
I'm Dale Hansen. Join me next for 50 years of sports on Channel 8. You might be surprised. And we'll also see the birth of America's team.
My being offered the job here, it was just the opportunity that we had been looking for.